What's up, Joe? What's up, everybody? Today, Rob Duran and I continue with our 2021 MLB preview right here on Sports 360. All right, I know you're going to take us through the American League, and you're probably going to start out west because you want to save your Yankees for last, right?
Yes.
Okay.
You got me there. You got
me. All right. We'll let you do that. You started with my Mets to get them out the way, and then you want to hold on to your Yankees until the last. I see how you roll, but that's okay. Fine. Let's go out to the West.
Well, I got a surprise for you here. I'm going to go with the Angels to take this division.
You're killing me, Smalls.
I'm going.
Come on, man.
They have to make the playoffs. I think this is kind of their year to do it. Listen, the Astros there's a lot of question marks with that team. Their pitching is a question mark. We don't know what they're going to get. If Altuve is what kind of player he is, because he had the case of the yips or whatever it was last year. The guy couldn't field. He couldn't hit. This spring training, he hasn't looked good at all either. So we'll see what that team brings offensively. The Mariners, they're still years away. Rangers, same thing. They're going to be at the bottom of the division. Oakland is a team. They lost some key pieces. They lost Marcus Semien, who I'm shocked they let him walk because he was a leader in their clubhouse. He bought into that system and the way they played and all that stuff. He really took in the analytical stuff of what Oakland brings and improved his defense, improved all his mechanics, all this stuff. Just he bought into their system, and they kind of let him walk, which I'm shocked about. I think this is the Angels' year. I think they're going to do it. They're going to win the division. Mike Trout is going to win the MVP. I think Ohtani is going to be the two-way player that everyone envisioned him to be when he came over from Japan. I think this is it. This is the year Mike Trout and the Angels finally get back into the playoffs.
Okay.
That's my hot take.
Yeah, it is your hot take. And look, I mean, the Angels to me are one of those teams where I'm at the point right now that until they do it, I'm not going to believe it. So I'm not saying they won't. And in a way, I'm rooting for them to finally break through because, like many people, I would like to see Mike Trout in the postseason to see what he can do on the big stage. He's only been there once, right? And they got knocked out real quickly, so you didn't see that much from him. So I would like to see the Angels get into the postseason. And it'd be nice to see Pujols in the postseason one more time, and you got Rendon there and so forth. But until they get there, it's a hard sell for me. But I do think, to me, the most interesting team out west is Houston, because as you alluded to, Altuve's still having problems. Bregman, Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa played well in the postseason. Springer, played well in the postseason, but he's now gone. And I still think the jury is out on whether the Astros were legit, or if it was sign stealing that helped them be the juggernaut that they were when they were making their runs, 2-3 years in a row running, right? And that to me is intriguing because now we're going to have some fans in the stands. So there might be some people who they didn't get their chance last year. You know what I'm saying? to let the Astros hear it. But we might see some of that. But I think more than just the fans letting them hear it, I really wonder if these guys are going to be able to rebound and show that that it wasn't just about sign stealing, that they really are among the best hitters in baseball. So I think that's going to be interesting. And you mentioned the A's, And yeah, Simeon is gone, and even though he's not a Simeon, but Elvis Andrews is there now, and he's a
Yeah,
pretty good shortstop. So I
I
don't
like
know
him.
how much of a drop off there'll be. I think Simeon is better, but Elvis Andrews is a nice addition to try to plug that hole. But yeah, you went out on a limb on this one. I thought maybe you were going to say Oakland, but you went out on on a limb in calling for the Angels to make the postseason. Do you see the A's um, getting the wild card, or you just see the division winner being the only one in that division to qualify for the postseason?
Ooh, that's tough. I could see another team out west. Yeah, maybe Oakland taking one of the wild card spots. I could see that because they're still a really good team. They have some boppers. Matt Olson is one first baseman. That dude has some serious power, and I think he's improved all his other numbers because he's one of those home run or strikeout kind of guys. But he gets on base at a high clip, and he hits for a pretty high average. And I know people don't like talking about batting average anymore, but he hit for a pretty high batting average this spring. Where last year he was like in the 190s, I believe. So he's really focused in on that part of his game, and I think that's going to improve. I wouldn't shock me he gets MVP votes with the kind of season I'm hoping he has. Plus, he's on my fantasy team, so I'm really hoping for that too. So,
Right, right.
but I think Oakland has some good bats. Obviously, Chapman out there at third. So we'll see. Maybe they can take one of the wild card spots. I mean, honestly, it wouldn't shock me if they won the division, but I'm going with the Angels. I'm going all in.
Okay. I wrote that one down. I wrote that one down because that's the one that is the eye opener. All right, let's see if you're on the roll. Let's go to the American League Central. You have any surprises for us out there?
No, I don't think so. The White Sox, I think, are the team to beat in that division. Even though the Twins, and I mentioned this a few shows ago now, defensively the Twins were one of the best teams in all of baseball last year, and they got better. So that makes a big difference. We're talking about that with one of the teams in the National League, where the defense with Milwaukee, with the defense making the difference for the pitching and all that stuff. And I think the Twins are going to be a very solid team. I think they're going to continue to, make a run. But I think the White Sox, the way they've improved their pitching, the rotation with Giolito and Lance Lynn in there now, who I think is another one of those guys that not many people talk about, but he's a really good piece. Even dating back to his days in St. Louis, was a really good pitcher when he first came up. He had a few hiccups along the way, but he's kind of solidified himself again as a number 2 or even number 3 pitcher. I think the White Sox, man, offensively, they're a juggernaut. They may be, if not the best, the second best team in the entire league, in the American League, period. So I think the White Sox take that division with the Twins coming in second.
You know, I think with Tony La Russa, at the helm of the White Sox, that's going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously Tony La Russa has won. He's been one of the best managers in the history of the game. But he is a bit older, and when they
Yeah,
made that hire, it made me scratch my head because La Russa is like an old school guy who doesn't seem to really trust younger players, and he has one of the younger teams
yeah.
in baseball, at least in terms of the position players. But I think he's skilled enough as a manager to make the adjustments, and he can only help those younger players develop and become winning ball players. Because it's one thing to have talent, it's another thing to know how to win.
Yeah.
And I believe he can help teach that club how to win. I do think Jimenez going down, right,
Oh, that's a big loss. Yeah.
was a big blow. But they have so much offensive firepower that you think they should be able to withstand that. But if they had him, it probably wouldn't even be close out there. Because they brought in Hendricks to shore up their bullpen, as a closer and everything else.
Yeah.
So they seem to be just really, really solid. But I would like to have seen what they could do with a healthy Jimenez and, see them playing every day with all that firepower and, as you said, the pitching that they have. I do think they'll win that division. But Minnesota, I think, may give them a little bit of a run for their money, but in the end, I think Chicago will take that division pretty handily.
Yeah, and I think Cleveland, they have some decent pitching still. Obviously with Bieber, they have some good pitching, but I don't think they have enough to keep up with the Twins and White Sox. So I see them finishing at third. I know they'll probably surprise, have a hot run here or there, but I don't think they have enough to kind of, move up to that upper echelon of that division.
Neither do I. Okay, so last but not least, we go to the AL East, and this is where the surprise is coming because you're picking the AL East, the Baltimore Orioles, right?
By 10 games. Man, I'll tell you though, the Orioles, they're an interesting bunch because I got a good look at them last year, and they, it was a pretty much of a wash of a season for them. But they have some good young pieces. Obviously, not enough to do anything this year, but they got some good young pieces. So I'm excited to see how they progress, and just the nerd side of me just wants to see that stuff. But they're in for a last place finish this year.
I was about to say, well, you're just being overly diplomatic. The Orioles are going to stink, okay? That's a legal term, that's a baseball term, that's a scientific term, okay? They are going to stink. So we could just stop with all that.
But for that division, I have to go with the Yankees. I don't think there's another team, when healthy, that can compete with the Yankees in that division. I said the White Sox might be the number 1 or 2 team in that entire league, in the American League, with the Yankees being one of those other teams. And listen, man, their pitching has, if healthy, improved over last year, and that's even without Severino for half the season this year. But I think Kluber is a guy. He looked pretty good for most of the spring. There were some innings where he would lose command and stuff like that, but for the most part, he looked good. I like Jordan Montgomery, who's a guy who doesn't get enough credit for being he's not a fire thrower. He's not going to throw, 97, 98, 99, but he knows how to pitch. And he reminds me a lot of like Andy Pettitte type. Not that he's as good as Pettitte, but to his style, he's a lefty also. He just knows how to pitch. And I love seeing him pitch. And the rest of the rotation, it's question marks because it's a few guys coming back from injury and you're hoping for the best. But I think that if healthy, there is no team that can come close to them in that division. The Rays lost their best bullpen arm, I think, in my opinion, their best bullpen arm. He's gone for the season. The Blue Jays, they've improved a lot this year. I can see them finishing second in that division. It wouldn't shock me, especially because the Rays, I think, lost too much pitching this year. But it's the Yankees division to lose. And I think even not at 100%, they're still the best team in that division.
I mean, the one thing that impresses me about the Yankees, and this sort of goes to the comment I made about La Russa and the White Sox, and perhaps La Russa helping them learn how to win, is that the Yankees know how to win.
Yeah.
And that I believe sets them apart. But I don't know if last year was a fluke where, they had so many injuries, but it seemed like every year you can count on Stanton missing chunks of time, and you have some other players that seem to be banged up, whether it's Hicks or other players, and so I think they need to be healthy overall, and they seem to have had a challenge with staying healthy over the past couple of years. But I wonder about their starting rotation. As you mentioned Kluber, but to me, there's a question over him, over his head. And I think same thing with Jameson. Taillon, right? I think there's a question mark over his head, only because they're coming back, right? And
Yeah.
so we have to see what they have. And certainly, if these guys pitch to expectation or past performance, then the Yankees will have caught lightning in the bottle twice. But we have to wait and see what happens. But what do you think about Britton and his elbow? Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, I think you always have to be concerned. And they're saying he'll be back, in a few months and stuff like that. But I think you always have to be concerned with how they come back and kind of building up. And Britton was one of those guys, man. One of probably the best reliever the Yankees have, to be honest. He was a
I
closer with
agree.
Baltimore, and I
Mm-hmm.
think he's the best reliever they have, the most consistent reliever they
Yep.
have.
Yep.
So I think that's a huge, huge loss, and they're gonna miss him, because they're gonna have to try to replace him and kind of plug guys in. And the other lefty they got, Justin Wilson, he's down and he's gonna start the season on the injured list. So they're gonna have to plug and play a little bit with the bullpen probably the first month or two of the season. But I'm keeping a close eye on how Britton comes back, because it's not a matter of if he comes back, it's how he comes back, because that sinker has to work in order for him to continue to be the effective pitcher he is.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I think that's going to be interesting, but I do think the Yankees are a bit better than Tampa. I think Tampa lost a lot. I think
Yeah,
with Morton and with Snell being gone, Nick Anderson being hurt, right? I think that's going to be a challenge for them. But Tampa yet seems to always find a way to win, though. So
yeah, always.
you can't count them out. And last postseason, you know, Randy Arozarena. I mean, he had 10 home runs,
Yeah,
and it was only like what 15, 20 some odd games. So you know what that means? That means this year he's going to hit 83 home runs, right?
that's
So
right.
because baseball is just that easy of a game. He's going to hit 83 home runs because he's just going to continue doing what he did in the postseason. Yeah,
Oh
right,
man, you gotta
right.
love it, huh?
Yeah, I mean, look, the pitchers are going to, they'll figure that young man out.
Yeah,
He had a great
yeah,
postseason, but let's calm down, okay, on Randy or Rosarena.
yeah.
You
And
know,
we'll see a lot of that. A lot of guys who were really hot last year and on fire and doing all this. We got to remember it's a 60-game season. Normally, after the 60 games is when, quote unquote, you separate the boys from the men, kind of thing, and you see who are the real contenders, who is just gonna kind of linger around but not make it. So we'll see that once the season starts picking up and we get into the 60, 70, 75 games and go on from there. So we'll see.
all right. So just to recap, so your division winners, starting in the National League, are the Braves in the East, the Cardinals in the Central, the Dodgers out West. And who are your wild cards in the National League?
Oh, wild cards. Let's see. Man, I'm gonna go with the Mets on that first wild card spot, and then the Padres.
About to say, why are you making it so hard? I mean, because there's nobody coming out of the Central.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to think of maybe someone else surprised, but nah.
Okay, all right. And so let's go in the American League. You have the Yankees in the East. You have the Chicago White Sox in the Central, and the surprise pick is the Angels in the West. That's really that's a daring pick right there. And who do you have as the wild cards in the AL?
I'm gonna go with Minnesota. Ooh, this is a tough one. Um, ooh, it's either Oakland. I'm leaning towards Oakland, but I think a team like the Blue Jays are interesting. I'm gonna go with Oakland. You know what? I'm gonna go with the Blue Jays. I'm gonna go all in on surprises in the American League.
Wow.
I'm
So
gonna go
you
with the Blue
you
Jays.
you really dismissing Tampa. You really
Yeah,
dismissing Tampa. Wow.
I don't know if they have enough this year. I think they just lost too much pitching, and offensively they weren't. I know, we talked about Randy Rosarena. Offensively, they weren't really
No.
jump off the
Mm-mm.
page kind of team.
Nope. Not at all. Not at all. Look, they were pitching, they were defense, right?
Yeah,
And they weren't big boppers, but they knew how to win. But yeah, okay. So yeah, so you have two surprises to me out there in the AL, and that is going with the Angels to win the AL West, and then just leaving Tampa, you know, as on the outside looking in terms of the postseason. So
and
okay, well at least
I'll give you a really small hot take. It
yes.
wouldn't surprise me if Tampa finished fourth in that division and the Red Sox finished third.
Okay, all right. Well,
And I think the Red Sox are going to be, and I hate to say this, I think they're going to be better than people think.
you know what? I think if we stayed on this podcast any longer, you'd probably have Tampa. You know how they do in the soccer in international soccer when if you play poorly, you like fall down to another league, right? You can't even stay in the league anymore. You'll have Tampa just they won't even be in the American League anymore.
They're going to
Eh,
use this as bulletin board material.
Yeah, they are because
They're
I mean I can't believe you're taking one of the better teams over the last 3 years, and now
Man,
you're saying they're going to finish fourth in the AL East.
it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, all right. I'm writing this down, but I don't write it down in pen or in ink. I'm just writing it down in my mind. So I we'll see how it goes. All right, but in any event, look, the season is starting and a lot of excitement, I believe, because now we're going to have a full season, no 60 games and anything like that. And so
Yeah.
it should really be it should really be exciting. A couple of things before we go. First, last week in the NBA, we had an all-female TV broadcast. It was
Yes.
Toronto. I forget who they were playing. The Raptors were playing. I forget who it was, but they had the first all-female um, broadcast in NBA history, and in fact, supposed to have another one tonight when the Warriors, and this is Monday, March 29th, when the Warriors are playing the Bulls. What do you think about that?
I think it's great, man. I think, when I think about female broadcasters, I think about how far the game has come because, like I think I said a few weeks ago, sports has always been like a man's thing, quote unquote. So to see these females coming out and doing this is amazing. This is great for the game. Just me thinking over the past few years, I think of a name like Doris Burke, who I think is one of the best broadcasters, period. Not female just one of the best analysts of basketball in general. I think she's phenomenal when she calls games. I think she knows her stuff, man. I think about like Candice Parker on, I believe it's on TNT, with Shaq and them. She schools Shaq all the time, but she knows the game of basketball in and out like insane. So I think that's awesome. And I think over the past year, we kind of saw more of she works for ESPN, Malika Andrews, who covered most of everything going on in the bubble and the playoffs. She did a phenomenal job as well. So it just kind of shows how far the NBA has come as far as, having women in these great positions and just allowing them to showcase their talent and their knowledge of the game of basketball. I think it's awesome, and I hope to see more of it.
I hear you, man. Um, I hear you. And here's the thing, though. I won't see it in my lifetime, I don't think. But when things like this stop being news,
Yeah.
um, because because that will be where we know we're at a point where things are where they should be, right? Where it's just about merit, it's just about talent, it's just about fairness, right?
Yeah.
But the reason why this is a story is because, unfortunately, it hasn't been about that. As you just said, it's about, male dominated industry, on the field at first, and then, in the front office, in the broadcast booth, and all those barriers are slowly being taken down. And it's going to take time before things like this stop being a story. But that's what I'm looking toward, that day when we don't have to point this out anymore. But until we get there, I'm with you. Um, it's really great to see. And I love what you just did as you went through Doris Burke and Malika Andrews and Candice Parker. And I just want to pause for a second on Candice Parker because I could not agree with you any more. Candice Parker is phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's just phenomenal. And if folk haven't caught her on TNT, when she's on with Shaq, and usually it's D Wade or Chris Webber or whoever else, but you hit it. She knows the game, and here's the thing: she's not the only one, right? And
Yep.
so, but to
Exactly.
see her doing that, it's just been fantastic, and so. I totally agree with you. Now, for those people who think we don't know hockey, Rob, right?
That's right.
Last March, hockey had an all-female broadcast team as well. So that one right there is for Phil Bradley. That we letting him know when we talking hockey on this joint. And why don't we do this? Why don't we make it a daily double and talk double hockey? Did you see the story, Rob, of the referee Tim Peel getting fired because
Yeah.
he was caught on a hot mic saying he wanted to call a penalty against I forget which team it was. Nashville, I think. I think it was. I'm not sure. But he wanted to call a penalty against them. They were playing the Red Wings. And it was almost as if he wanted to make up for an earlier call. He didn't know he was on a hot mic. It was a rink mic, so it just happened to catch him. He's like, "Yeah, I wanted to call that one," and he got caught and he got fired. Come on, man. Tell me your thoughts about that one.
First of all, hockey finally makes it on the show, and it's because they're full of controversy.
There you
You
go.
see that?
There you go.
But man, my thoughts on this are, I'll tell you this: stuff like that happens in sports more often than fans think. This probably happens in every single game you've ever watched, and we just don't know it. We could see it in the body language of the umpires, for example, if they miss a strike call or something, whatever it is. They kind of give that body language back to the player and say, "I got you. Next time, if it's a close call, it'll go your way." And in the NBA, we probably see it with foul calls and this and this and this and that. But it's a bad look for the NHL. Obviously, you don't want to hear it, I guess. But it is something that goes on in every single game we've ever watched, probably multiple times per game. So I think it became a story because it was on a hot mic and it was heard. But I think had he not said anything and it just, called a penalty here and there, it'd be a non-story and it wouldn't end up on Sports 360 with us right now. So
but Rob, you're absolutely right. Listen, Tim Peel simply said out loud what a lot of referees and officials do all the time.
yeah,
They do makeup calls. They do it all the time. And we know that. Those of us who watch sports know it. The broadcasters know it. The players know it. Everybody knows it.
yeah,
And so for him to get fired, he got fired because he said out loud that which was supposed to stay quiet. But last week, and this is not even talking about this Tim Peel thing. But Brian Scalabrine was telling a story, and Brian Scalabrine had a long NBA career, but he was a bench player, right?
Yeah.
And he was with the Nets. He was telling a story. He was with the Nets at a time when Kenyon Martin was one of the better players in the NBA at the time, and Kenyon Martin was on the Nets. And Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin was one of the more physical players in the NBA. And so he said Scalabrine said he was on the bench and Kenyon Martin's out there whacking people, doing Kenyon Martin things. And, no calls are being made on him. And Scalabrine comes in the game and he says, veteran official, Joey Crawford, was like whistling him for like little ticky-tack fouls. And he said he started to complain. And Crawford said, well, I can't call him on Kenyon, so I'm calling them on you. Right? So, and who doesn't understand that? Who doesn't understand that the referee is going to call some fouls on the bench player that he's not going to call on the star player, because he knows that the television audience, that the crowd, that the NBA wants the stars to be in the game? Who doesn't understand that? Right? Now, if Joey Crawford would have been caught on a hot mic saying that, maybe he would have gotten fired. I don't know. But I believe that everyone who watches NBA basketball appreciates that Joey Crawford makes a distinction between the stars of the world and, the last guy on the bench. Is that fair? Is that right? I don't know. But that's the way it should be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because if they call those fouls on LeBron and he has, 4 fouls by the third quarter, 5 fouls, whatever it is, we're going to hear a lot of complaints. Broadcasters are going to complain on site.
No doubt.
Somebody may get a call from Adam Silver saying, listen, you need to stop calling these fouls on LeBron.
That's right. That's why I think about this controversy with Peel and they fired him. It's like, yeah, this is a politically correct, public, facing type of a move that we have to, show that we are concerned with the integrity of the game. And I get it. It's the right message and all the rest of that. But if we can just come down a little bit, okay, and we can just put it where the goats can get it, what we would say is, you know what? This happens all the time. It happens all the time. But
it does. Listen, man, even in my softball league where I play in the summers, the umpire there, no word of a lie, he got a call wrong. It was on video. Like, we were recording. We happened to be recording this play. You clearly saw that our player was safe at first. The ball hadn't even got there. He literally turned to us in the middle of the game and said, the next close play, I got you guys. The other team didn't. In the middle of the game, the other team didn't protest because they knew it. It's just, it is what it is. And even they said, they're like, yo, man, he was safe, but just give him the next. So it's just part of the game, it's going to happen. So why, let's not make a big deal of it.
Yeah. But, but there you go. But here we had two takes on hockey tonight. So
I wish I had a sound machine right now to go off with the horns and all that.
There you go. There you go. Don't act like I don't know hockey. I know the chant, "Let's go Rangers." I know that. Tell me I don't know hockey.
Man.
Anyway, man, listen, good talking with you. Give us a good recap or a good preview on the coming MLB season. Going to be interesting. I'm especially watching 2 things in the American League. I'm watching the A's and I'm going to be watching Tampa. Those are going to be some interesting storylines as far as I'm concerned, because your reputation is on the line on those right there. So you better watch out.
Man, I may have to start picking up more NBA and retire from baseball after this season.
We'll go. We'll see. You go. Well, look, man, it was great talking with you, and we're going to come back again next week, and we'll come back with another scintillating episode of Sports 360.